Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this Python dashboard playlist, I'll be teaching you how to create dashboard using Python and running it on Streamlit. So in this episode, we'll be learning how I went about creating our emergency room visit patterns dashboard. This dashboard uses two filters where we can filter by the day of the week from Monday to Sundays, and we can also use our hours. Okay, we have 24 hours in the day, so you can pick from any range of the time and filter the dashboard. You see that as I am changing the slider, it filters this dashboard. So we'll be looking at the number of visits we have by the hour of the day. Okay, so for example, we have 24 hours in the day. We want to see for each hour in the day how many patients visited the emergency room. We want to get an insight regarding which particular time in the day do we have more patients visiting the emergency room department. So the next chart we would also be creating is this common ERO visit reason. What is the most common reasons patients are being brought into the emergency room department? So we'll be creating a bar chart that shows us the most common reason patients are visiting the emergency room department, and the last chart we'll be creating is a heat map that shows us the influx of patients into the emergency room by the day of the week and the hour of the day. So we have the various days of the week and we also have the various hours in the day, and we want to pinpoint how many patients are visiting the emergency room department for a particular time. So for example, on Fridays during 12 to 5, that's the first 5 hours in the day, how many patients are we getting that are visiting the emergency room department? So this will help us be able to know the most critical time of the day in the emergency room department. If you want to know how I was able to build this or create this dashboard in Python, then ensure to watch this video till the end. It's a quick video for beginners, and if you are a beginner, then I encourage you to watch this video because you'll be learning a whole lot from this video. Okay, so without wasting time, let's dive right in. So the first thing we are going to do is to go ahead and create our Python file, and as usual you can click on this first icon and let's call this our app.py. Okay, so this .py extension is what makes this a Python file. So let's go ahead and click on this, and you can see we've created our Python file. Now let me just go ahead and show you the CSV file which we'll be using. So this is our file. I'll be adding this file to this video description so that any one of you that want to code along with me can go ahead and download and code along, and I will advise that you code along with me. That's a much more better way to learn faster. Okay, so our emergency room visits file contains the visit ID, the visit date, the visit time hour, at what time of the day was this patient wheeled into the emergency room, the age of the patient, the gender, the reason for visit, the triage level, how critical was the situation, and the how long did this patient have to wait before he or she was attended to, which is the wait time in minutes. Okay, so this is what our CSV file contains. So now let's go back to our app.py. The first thing we do is to import all the libraries which we'll be using, and those are, we'll be importing pandas, we'll be importing plotly.express, which we'll be using for visualization. I'll be importing Streamlit as st. Those three libraries are the three main libraries which we'll be using. So let me go ahead and import those. So after importing the libraries, the next thing we'll be doing is to import the data set itself which we'll be using. Okay, so this data set we have here, we want to import it into our app.py, our Python file. Okay, and to do that you just have to pass in the 5 paths inside our pd.read underscore CSV. To get the file path is very easy. So let me go and close from this. So this is how you get the file path. All you have to do is, this is the where I have the CSV file in my computer system. I can click on this and go to properties, and once I get to properties, you see location. So you can go ahead and copy this, and this plus the name of the file makes the file path. Okay, so you can see this is the location of the file on my system, this is the name of the file, and the file extension, which is .csv. We just have to pass the file path into pd.read underscore CSV, and we will now save this as df. So we've been able to read our data set inside our Python file. Now the next thing we want to do is to ensure that our dates column is saved as a date value, not as string or anything else. So remember that we have our visit date, which is a date column where we have the various date an individual or a patient was wheeled into the emergency room. Okay, so we want to ensure that that column is saved as a date data type. So we'll be using the pandas pd.to underscore date time to convert the visit date column to a date time data type. So you can see this is easy and straightforward. Now once we are done with that, the next thing we want to do is to get the day of the week. Okay, so remember that this is just a date column, right? But it does not tell us if it was on a Sunday, on a Monday, or on a Tuesday. But in as much as you know the dates, you can check the calendar and it would tell you, oh, this was a Monday, this was a Sunday, right? So this is what we want to do using Python code. We want to be able to get the particular day of the week that event took place, that patient was wheeled into the emergency room. We'll be calling on the .dt.day underscore name. So this piece of code here on our visit date column gives us the exact day of the week that individual was wheeled into the emergency room. So once we've done this, now we want to create our filters. We want to be able to filter for a particular day of the week and a particular time of the day to see, oh, how many patients we had. So for example, we want to be able to say, oh, on Saturday at about 8 p.m. how many patients was brought into the emergency room. So that's what we want to do. So the next thing we'll be doing is to create a filter. So to create these filters is just a straightforward process, right? The first thing we are going to do is to use the Streamlit sidebar.header to create a sidebar filters column. Now the main thing now is to use to get the day of the week filters. We want to be able to get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday up until Sunday, right? So we just want to get those unique values on our day of week column. Remember that we've created a day of week column, so we want to get those unique values, and those unique values will be what we'll be using to create our filter options, right? We'll be calling on the .unique method, converting this to a list, and we'll be getting the exact days in this particular day of week column. Now the next thing we want to do is to create a select bus filter where we can pick a particular day of the week from. Okay, so we'll be using the st, which is streamlit.sidebar.select bus option to create this. So all we have to do is pass in the unique days into this. So this is an optional test, like just to say select the day of the week. So optionally we would have all or the days. So if it's all, we are looking at all the days of the week, Monday up until Sunday. Then you also have the option to pick a particular day from the days of the week. So we'll be saving this as selected day. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to create something like this also for our times from 12 a.m. in the morning up until 12 p.m. in the afternoon. We want to be able to get range of hours, so we can say, oh, at 8 p.m. how many patients, what was the influx of patients into the emergency room like? At 12 a.m. what was the influx of patients into the emergency room like? So we want to get a slider that can do that for us. So to do that, we'll be using the st.sidebar.slider. So this is going to be a slider that we hold in range of value. So in a day we have 24 hours, right? So our minimum value will be 0, our maximum value will be 23. So we can pick in a range of value from 0 to 23. So that's just a very easy way we can, go ahead and create this sidebar slider filter option. So we'll go ahead and save this as our hour range. Now the next thing we want to do is to filter our data set. Okay, so to do this, we'll be using the subset method in Python, and what we are technically saying is we want to return those rows of data that contains values between the hour range selected. So for example, if we selected hours between 12 p.m. to 8 a.m., we want to return rows of data where a patient visited the hospital between those range of hours. So that's what we are technically saying. So using our visit time underscore hour. So remember that if you go to our data set, we have the visit underscore time underscore hour, right, telling us the exact hour of the day the patient came into the emergency room. So we are using that column now to filter our data set. So if the individual came into the hospital where the time of visit is greater than or equals to our selected hour range, our first, we created an hour range and sidebar where we'll be selecting two values, right, the minimum value and the maximum value. So if it is between the minimum value and if it's lesser than or equals to the maximum value, then return those rows of data back to us. So that's going to be our filtered data frame. So that is what we are going to be using each time we apply that filter. We are going to be returning just rows of data based on that filtered data. So now the next thing we will do is to write this line of code that says if the selected day is not equals to all, meaning if we pick a particular day, go ahead and return that particular day we've selected based on our filtered df. So these are two things that are taking place. First of all, we are subsetting our data based on the hour range we've selected. So we are looking at, for example, we can see we are looking at patients that came into the hospital from 8 a.m. in the morning to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, right? So that is one condition we've put in place. Then secondly, we are now saying that patients that did not just only come into the hospital between 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. but patients that also came on Friday. So are you seeing what we are doing here? So we are putting in two conditions. So we are not just looking at patients that came into the hospital between 2 hour range, but we're also looking at patients that came into the hospital on a particular day. So that is what we are going to be using to filter our data frame. So I will be saving this as the filtered underscore df. So every dashboard must have a title, right? So now the next thing we want to do is to create a title for our dashboard. I'll be calling this the emergency room visit patterns dashboard. And note, we are using the st.title. Remember I said anytime we are calling on st, we are referring to Streamlit. I remember we've imported Streamlit as st at the beginning when we started this project, right? So we'll be using the streamlit.title to give our dashboard a title, and we'll also be counting how many patients. Our filtered df want to get the length of the number of patients that visited the hospital at the particular day and time. Now the next thing we want to do is to get the number of patients that visited the ERO at a particular time of the day. Okay, so we just use the st.subheader to give this a header title called the ERO visit by hour of the day. We want to look at the number of patients that visited the hospital by the hour of day. When it was 2 p.m., how many patients visited? When it was about 1 o'clock, how many patients visited? So we just want to create a chart showing us influx of patients by hour of the day. So to do that, the first thing we want to do is to group by the visit time hour. Okay, so we'll be using our data frame, which is our filtered df, and all we just have to do is to group by the visit time hour. All right, so now we can save this as our hourly visit we've gotten. So what it's going to do is going to create a table that is going to be showing us the various visit time hour and the number of rows of data or the numbers of patients that visited within that particular hour. So it can say for 12 a.m. 6 people visited, for 1 p.m. 7 people visited, just like that. So that's what this line of code is going to be returning back to us. So we'll be using this information, this table which we created here, to create a chart. So our bar chart, which we are going to be creating using plotly.express, is going to be showing us the visit time hour and the visit count, which is the number of persons that visited on that particular time of the day. So we'll be calling on the ps.bar. Remember that ps is for plotly.express, and we are using plotly.express because it creates interactive chart. So we'll not be using Seaborn or Matplotlib. And it's same process like using Seaborn or Matplotlib. What you have to do is to pass in the data frame, which is our hourly visit in this time around, then pass in our columns. Remember, we have the visit time hour, which is going to be on the x axis. We have the visit count, which is going to be on our y axis, and these are just going to be labels. So we can label our visit time hour as hour of the day, the visit count as number of visits, and we can give our chart a title, which is arrow visits by hour. Okay, so with this we've been able to create our chart. We can go ahead and call on st.plotly_chart to set the size of our chart. So let me go ahead and save this and show you what our dashboard looks like currently. So I'll go to terminal, I'll run new terminal. Okay, now I will say Streamlit. So I'll say Streamlit, run app. Remember, we saved our file as app.py. Okay, so this is what we'll be calling app.py, and let's go ahead and run this. So while we are waiting for this to fully pop up, what happens is that this creates a local host on your system where your Streamlit app is currently running. So if we go to our browser, you'll see this is our filter which we created, where we have the various days of the week: Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Monday, and so forth. And we also have a slider option where we can select from any hours within the day. So for example, you can see, so if I select from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m, you'll see these are the influx of patients we had for those hours. So you can see our bar chart showing us the number of visits we had for that day. Okay, so you can also see that hovering around this chart we have a tooltip. That's how we use plotly.express, because it's interactive. If it's Seaborn or Matplotlib, we will not be getting this tooltip option. So we can also go ahead and click on a particular day. So let's click on Wednesday, and you can see it filters this dashboard as well. So this is what we currently have. It also shows us that we are showing 41 arrow visits. So we had 41 patients visiting the emergency room on Wednesday from 12 p.m. in the afternoon to 11 p.m. in the evening. So let's go ahead and continue creating our dashboard. Now the next thing we want to be looking at is the common visit reason. What was the most common reason a patient was rushed into the emergency room department? Okay, so that's the next chart we are going to be creating. So same process, we'll be using the st.subheader. I will be giving this a common arrow visit reason. So this is just like a subheader. So let's go back to our dashboard. So you see what we made here, right? So that just says arrow visit by hour of the day, and it shows us the chart. So that's what we are trying to do. So we'll be calling this our common arrow visit reasons. And now we want to get the various visit reason and count how many times each of these visit reasons occurred. So remember, we have our CSV file and we have our visit reasons, right, as a column where we have headache, abdominal pain, orders, injury, allergic reaction. So we want to count how many times each of these visit reasons occurred. So to do that, we'll be using the .valuesCount method. So we'll be calling on the .valuesCount method on our visit reason. I'll be saving this as reason count. Okay, now we cannot go ahead and create our chart. So all we have to do is to just get the columns. First of all, our visit reason column and count, which is the value count, the number of times each of these visits occurred. So we'll be creating a bar chart as well. I'll be using ps.bar, just like what we did previously. We'll go ahead and pass in our reason count, which is our subset data frame. We'll be passing that in, and our x-axis will be the visit reason, and the y-axis will be our count, which is the numbers of time that particular visit occurred. Okay, so we'll go ahead and give this a name, most common ERO visit reasons, and we'll be setting the size of our chart using st.plotly.chart. So if I go ahead and save this, Ctrl S, so we'll save this, and let me go back to our dashboard and let's go ahead and refresh this. So we want to see the updates we've done on our dashboard. Okay, so this is our dashboard. Previously we were looking at the ERO visit by hour of the day. We still have our charts here, and we have added one more extra chart, right, the common ERO visit reason. So now we can see the most common ERO visit reason. We have breathing difficulty, we have fever, allergic reaction, injury, chest pain, abdominal pain, headache, and others. And we can see that they are also arranged based on the visit reason with the most occurring number of times. Okay, so now let's go ahead. Same thing, our filters works as well. So we can look at Friday only, and you can see it has filtered our dashboard just for Friday. So let's go ahead and continue building our dashboard. So the next thing we want to look at, or the next thing we'll be looking at, is to create a heatmap. Okay, so heatmap are usually very good for this type of data where we are looking at occurrence of activity over time. So we want to look at the hour of the day. Which particular time of the day do we have more influx of patients coming into the emergency room? Which particular day of the week do we have more influx of patients coming into the emergency room? So an heatmap is a very good chart for visualization in this kind of situation. So to do that same process, we'll be calling on the st.subheader. I will be giving this a name called the ERO load heatmap. Okay, so and we'll be looking at day versus hour. So we have 7 days in a week and 24 hours in a day, right? So we'll be looking at the days versus hour. Now to create our heatmap, the first thing we want to do is to get our data set, which we'll be using for this to create this heatmap, right? So using our filtered DF, we'll be grouping by the day of the week and the visit time underscore hour. So it's a straightforward process. So when we group by day of the week, we'll be getting Fridays, and we're not just grouping by day of the week, we're also grouping by the visit time hour. So for Fridays, we'll be getting 0 to 23, which is the 24 hours in that day, and for each of these hours is also going to return the count, which is the number of visits we had for those particular hours in the day. So once we've gotten that information, we can now go ahead and save that as our heatmap df. I'll be using that to create our heatmap. So to create heatmap using plotly.express, we use the density underscore heatmap. Okay, ps.density underscore heatmap, and now we can now go ahead and pass in all our information. So the first thing is our data set, which is the heatmap underscore df. Our x-axis is going to be the visit time underscore hour. Our y-axis is going to be the day of the week, so Monday to Sunday. Z is going to represent the values that will be contained in each of this column, which is the count of the visit. How many times did the patient visit the emergency room for this particular day under this particular hour? Okay, so now we can go ahead and save our title as ERO load heatmap and pass in our various labels. So once we are done with that, all we have to do is to call the st.plotly underscore chart and set our heatmap container width. Okay, so if I go ahead and save this, let's Ctrl S, and just go ahead and add this line of information directing your user on how to make use of the dashboard. So we'll just be stating that use the filters on the left to explore our emergency room visit patterns by time and day. So if we go ahead and save this, Ctrl S, and let's go back to our dashboard and refresh our dashboard. Okay, so let's refresh this. So now you'll see that our heatmap has been added to our dashboard. So you see we have our heatmap here. Heatmap is made up of boxes that are colored, right? The more darker the color, it shows us that we have more intense value or more occurrence of patients visiting the emergency room within that particular period. So you can see that the hour which we had the most darker area is on Friday, which is from the hours between 5 to 9. Okay, so that's where we had more influx of patients. We had 26 patients visiting the emergency room between that time. So also on Tuesdays we had 25 patients visiting by 5 to 9. Also on Tuesday we had 24 patients. So we can say these days are the days where we had more influx of patients visiting the hospital. Okay, so remember that we can also go ahead and use our filter option. So for example, if we say we want to look at 12 a.m. in the morning up until 6, so you can see it has filtered our data frame from 0 to 6. So we're looking at just those hours, the first 6 hours in the day. And we can see for Fridays we also have the highest influx of patients between 2 to 3 o'clock. We had 12 visits. On Tuesday as well, we had the high influx of patients between 12 to 1. So this is our emergency room visit pattern dashboard. You can click on the filter. We can filter for Wednesday, and it's going to filter the entire dashboard based on that particular day of the week. So you can see now we're just looking at only Wednesday, and we can see that the influx of patients, we had 21 visits between 0, that's between 12 to 4. Okay, so remember we can also look at all the hours and get all the values as well. So this is all the code we used in creating this dashboard. So I think we had about 101 line of code, right? So this brings us to the end of this video. If you find this video helpful, interactive, educational, then please ensure to give this video a thumbs up and share to your friends or anyone is interested in using Python for creating dashboard. This is very, very useful. Imagine you creating this as a data analyst for the hospital you are working for, to be easy for them to track their the way patients are visiting the emergency room department. Okay, so also go ahead and drop your comments and questions in the comment section if you have any. I will do my best to make sure I answer each and every one of you. So till next time, bye for now and see you in my next video.